Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Steph and it's April 15th at 9 o'clock in the morning and I've decided to chaotically start the magical readathon. I've been really burnt out. You probably saw that in my last vlog and I just haven't been wanting to participate in anything. I haven't really been reading that much and then I started getting FOMO. And the thing is that I participate in the magical readathon every year whether I vlog it or not, and I was like, listen, I need to just do it. So I've decided that I'm changing my career because I just thought that would be fun, you know, to jazz it up a little bit. So I'm now trying to go for Moon Warden. And these are the prompts that I have to fulfill. And I am going to spend this vlog chaotically fulfilling these prompts. If you don't know anything about the Magical Readathon is hosted by G over at Book Roast. Absolutely love G, absolutely love the Magical Readathon. It's so fun. And it's like one of those things that you can make it as intense as you want it to, or you can make it as casual as you want to. It's kind of like a role play based game. You get to build a character and you get to read prompts to build that character, or you can kind of just go straight into building the character. And then you attend this magical school, and at this magical school you are trying to fulfill your calling. I will link everything down below. G has a beginner's guide to the Magical Readathon, which is super helpful. Watch that first above anything else. And it happens twice a year, so you have a good chance of participating. There's also side quests and like year-long quests that you can participate in. So like I said, I'm trying to do the Moon Warden calling and I have 5 prompts to fulfill. One of them you will see is already checked off because earlier this month I ended up reading Role Playing, which has play in the title. So that is not going to be in this vlog, but the rest of them are. So I need Source of Light on the cover, a zodiac pick, book you think could cure your slump, and a random number generates the length of the title. So I think the first prompt that I'm going to do is the random number generator. So let me pull up a random number generator and then we will figure something out. I just realized, how long should it be? Is 25 a reasonable length? I feel like that's a reasonable length. We're gonna do 25 and generate. So we got 12. Okay, cool. I don't know anything off the top of my head. So I'm gonna have to get back to you about what I'm choosing because I need to go through, first off, what I'm in the mood for, and secondly, something that has 12 letters in the title. Hello, I just realized that you can probably hear my cats eating in the background, so I'm sorry if you hear some weird nasty noises in the background. It's just my cats. I just got home from work and I'm not gonna lie, I have a massive migraine, but I'm mainly updating for 2 reasons. I started a book, but also today was my last day at my job. So I'm feeling really weird about it. I don't know, it's just strange. It's just a strange feeling to have been going to a place for a few years now, and now I won't. I'll be going somewhere new. I'm sure y'all can relate to it if you've switched jobs before. But yeah, I'm feeling strange. I just know that it's a good change and I need this change. So excited to start my new chapter, but I have like a week and a half off before I start my new job. And I just couldn't be more excited that I did that for myself. That was my gift from me to me. I think it'll be a good time too to like process, because I am horrible with change. Like, I know this about myself. I need help getting that all out of the way, because the reason I wanted to share this was because I did talk in my last video about how I was quitting my job. And so this is the update. All that being said, I did start Night Swim. I'm not far. I actually don't know where I am in the book because I have been listening to it, but I think I'm like 50 pages in, and I immediately knew that I liked this. I immediately knew that this at the very least is going to be 4 stars, simply because if you've ever watched Broadchurch with David Tennant, I absolutely loved this show. Like, I was addicted to the show. I was lucky that I found it after all of the seasons had already come out, so I like marathoned it. And one of my favorite seasons was the 2nd season because it's in the courtroom. This is giving me that vibe. Because this is, well, we haven't really established fully what's going to happen here, but so far we're following a podcaster named Rachel, and she does like those true crime kind of podcasts. Think of Serial, think of Up and Vanished. Actually, this reminds me so much more of Up and Vanished than it does Serial, but it's like that era of true crime podcast. So Rachel is on her 3rd season of the podcast, and in this podcast she is actually going to be in a courtroom and she's going to be going through this rape trial. Then she gets a note from this girl named Hannah, and Hannah wants Rachel to investigate her sister's murder. And the case was never solved. So it's a cold case because by the time we are meeting back up with Hannah and we are meeting Rachel, it's like 25 years after her death. And so Hannah leaves Rachel this really ominous note basically saying like, please investigate my sister's murder. I've asked you 3 different times and I've always gotten rejections, but you're in my town and I think this is the perfect time for you to investigate this murder. And Rachel, against her better judgment, where I'm at in the book, is about to meet up with Hannah. I'm guessing that Rachel is going to start doing an investigation for it. I don't really know, but I do know that the podcast season that we get to like listen to, because episodes actually are a part of the book, which highly recommend the audiobook. That's the reason I wanted to read this book, was because of the podcast element. So I can confirm the audiobook is really fun and you get to listen to it like there are episodes. And I was just driving home and one of the chapters that I was on, or one of the sections of the chapter that I was on, was a podcast episode, and I totally forgot that I was reading a book. I completely forgot I was reading a book. I was listening to the podcast. I was so involved in it. And then I was like, wait, I'm listening to a book. So I think this is going to be a really good success. I'm probably going to lay in bed and watch a bunch of comfort YouTube because that's the vibe that I'm in. Although the book was really sucking me in when I was driving home. So there is potential that I will also just lay in bed and listen to my audiobook and stare at the ceiling and contemplate things in life. Or maybe I'll play Zelda. I don't know if I really want to have a thought tonight.
You're running away. Said you're sick of the city and due for a change, but I need you to stay. Just as long as it takes me to memorize your face, I'll draw it all day. Till your eyebrows point to your jawbone in just the right way. If you made a mistake, you can come back.
Come here to update you because I had a nice little adventure day with Jared. So Jared had the day off. I'm on my first day off on my like professional leave, because technically yesterday was my last day of work, but today is like my professional leave and it lasts until like the 29th. Anyway, I had my first official like day of freedom and I really wanted to go to this Barnes & Noble that it's kind of far from us, but it always has the best selection. And there's a couple other like shopping things around it. So we decided to just make a trip and make kind of a day of it. And I ended up getting more books than I anticipated. And I say that and you're going to be expecting a stack of like 10 books. It's 4. But I really was only thinking about getting 1. Also, I'm weirdly not a shopper, like in-person bookstore shopper, where I get like more than 4 books in one trip. I don't know that I really ever get more than 4. Typically my number is 1 or 2, but I go to the bookstore a lot, so that's probably why. So anyway, I wanted to show you what I got. I wanted to show you a little haul. I could also show you the things that I like bought. It was just some skincare stuff. I did just put it away. I basically got my Naturium stuff. And I have a really exciting ARC to show you, which I will show you first actually, because I got this the other day and I haven't been able to show you yet because I just haven't thought about it. My bestie Jela, who got her first acquisition from Saga Press, and she so kindly reached out to me and asked me if I wanted a copy of this book since I read fantasy romance, and I was like, absolutely, I want to read your first acquisition. So she sent it to me with a really cute letter. So it is The North Wind by Alexandria Warwick. So this is supposed to be inspired by Beauty and the Beast and Hades and Persephone, and this is supposed to be enemies to lovers. This is following our main character, Ren, of the Edgewood. With her parents gone, it's Ren's responsibility to ensure she and her sisters survive the harsh and endless winter. But if the legends are to be believed, their home may not be safe for much longer. So I'm not sure if this is fae, like the immortals are fae, but it does say, The Northwind is a standalone enemies to lovers, slow burn fantasy romance. the first in a series sprinkled with Greek mythology. So I'm wondering if the series is like standalone fantasies, kind of like The Serpent and the Wings of Night. I'm gonna try to pick this up before it comes out, so hopefully I'll like read this in a vlog for you. But this comes out May 21st. So check it out if you're interested. Thank you so much, Jela, for this copy. I'm really looking forward to trying this one out. Oh, on the front, it says a mortal woman, an ageless god, a union that will save the world or destroy it. Interesting. So it's not fae. But now what I got from Barnes & Noble. So, you know, they always have like a buy one, get one 50% off promotion. And every time it gets me, even though it's like not the best deal in the world. So the one book that I was looking for in particular was Here We Go Again by Allison Cochran. Allison Cochran wrote Kiss Her Once for Me and The Charm Offensive. I have not read The Charm Offensive, although it is on my 24 and 24, but I did read Kiss Her Once for Me and I loved it. So I really wanted to read this other sapphic romance, which has, I think this one's friends to lovers, which doesn't always work for me, but I like a little road trip moment, and this has a road trip in it. And it was part of the buy one, get one 50% off promotion. I took the sticker off already. So I got the honeys. And this one is because in my last video, y'all mentioned this. I think 2 people mentioned it, and then somebody else on Instagram messaged me, and I also think in my Discord messaged me, and collectively 4 or 5 people told me to read the honeys. And this is by Ryan LaSala. Ryan LaSala also did, what was that book called? Say it somewhere on this cover. Reverie, which I think a couple of my friends rated pretty highly. I wasn't as interested in it because I believe it's theater based, and I was not a theater kid, so I had no interest in it. But this one apparently is supposed to be giving all the vibes that I was looking for in my last video, and so this is what y'all recommended, and I decided to get the physical copy because I'm not gonna lie to you, the reason I hadn't picked this up or even really thought of it was because I did not like the audiobook narration of this when I tried. I think I tried last summer to read this, and I just didn't like the audiobook narration. So now I have a physical copy, and I'm planning hopefully to read this soon, and I will read it physically this time. And then I ended up getting this next book because Christine did a reel recently where she was talking about her recent purchases, and she mentioned an author who I have previously really liked before, but she just released a new novel, and that is A Flame in the North by Lilith St. Crow. So during the pandemic, I read, I think it was called The Throne of Five Winds is what that series is called. Never finished the series. I probably should instead of moving into a new series that isn't even completed yet. But I was very interested in this one because it's supposed to be a Norse-inspired epic fantasy of ancient myth and magical destiny. And I've really been loving Norse-inspired fantasy recently, thanks to John Gwynne. It's something I'm very interested in, so that's why I picked this one up. And then the last one I picked up, I mean, technically it's 3 books in one, so it's a bind up, but it's 3 books, and I'm so excited because, first off, I have rarely seen anything by this author out in the wild. I've only seen 1 book out in the wild, and I believe it's like a newer hardcover that came out. I haven't investigated because I'm still only in the first series, but I'm almost done with the first series. So I was excited to see this because I squealed when I saw it, because it is literally the next bind up that I needed. And it's Mercedes Lackey, and it is the last Harold Mage trilogy. So publication order wise, this comes next. Here is the bind up that I'm currently reading. This is the Complete Arrows trilogy. So this in publication order is the first trilogy by Mercedes Lackey, and I've really been enjoying it. But anyway, I've never seen the trilogies in bind ups out in the wild. I also kind of love and hate that they're in bind ups because it makes it very convenient for me. I'm really excited to have such an expansive universe to dive into, because that was one of the really appealing things about Robin Hobb for me, was that it's a very expansive universe. And I know what y'all are gonna say is you're gonna talk about Brandon Sanderson already doing that, not having the best time. So yeah, that's the haul. And now I'm gonna pop in some headphones, continue listening to The Night Swim, and clean my house. Because Noelle is coming actually for the Festival of Books this weekend.
These days, but you crash your car if you change your heart, making U-turns on the freeway, on the freeway, on the freeway.
good morning. It is the morning of the Festival of Books. Jared and I are only going on Saturday. Noelle is here. Noelle came last night. She's staying the weekend, but she's staying here tonight, and I think she's staying with the roomies tomorrow because they're all going Sunday. Jared and I are not going Sunday. I will say I am really excited that they have started adding so many more romance panels into the LA Festival of Books, but otherwise I just wasn't really that excited about much that was going on panel-wise. There are some author signings that I'm interested in possibly going to, so I'll probably do that. The cool thing about the festival is that you can like do the panels, or you can just walk around and like look at things and go to the free stuff that's going on. Most things are free, but some of the panels do cost a little bit of money. So yeah, this was the first year that I hadn't really planned to sign up for any panels. And when I looked at them, I didn't really like get super excited. There were some authors that I'm extremely interested in seeing, but they either don't have panels that just like work with the time frame, or the panels are on Sunday, and we weren't planning on going on Sunday. I think this is Noelle's first time going, which is really cool. I hope that she has a really, really fun time. I know that she's going to panels, the roomies are going to panels, so hopefully I will get some B-roll while I'm there. I'm not always the best at vlogging when there's lots of people around, but I shall try my best.
Like you mean it. I hope I make them proud. If every younger version of myself could see me now. Didn't mean to wake you, just go back to sleep. Been telling secrets I was supposed to keep. But you are a folktale, I'm a believer. You are a pipe dream, I am a dreamer. You are a phone call, I'm a receiver. You are a sickness, and I've got a fever. Asking me what are we, a stranger at a party. Said I don't look well. I think that he was kidding, but I couldn't really tell. Either way, it went straight up to my head. Didn't mean to wake you, just go back to bed. But you are a folktale, I'm a believer. You are a pipe dream, I am a dreamer. You are a phone call, I'm a receiver.
Hello friends, I just finished The Night Swim by Megan Golden. One thing, I'm on reading sprints with Erin and Monty informed me that The Night Swim is a series and that the second one had already come out, and the second one came out like in August of last year. I have heard nothing about it, so I'm just gonna assume that it's not as good as this one. I finished The Night Swim and I would say that I'm landing on a 4 stars. And really the 4 stars is because the podcast element was so strong to me, as well as I liked being in the courtroom while this whole trial was unfolding, and our main character, Rachel, who is the podcaster, how she's like covering this case, but she's also trying to figure out what happened with Hannah's sister. I believe I mentioned in an earlier synopsis that in this book, there's kind of 2 cases going on simultaneously, and they are both sexual assault cases. But in one of the situations, the girl many years ago who was sexually assaulted dies, and her sister, who's Hannah, reaches out to Rachel, who's the podcaster covering this court case, and she is telling her like it wasn't just an accident, as the police want people to believe. Something else happened, and I'm ready to tell my story. So she kind of tells her story through letters to Rachel because she's too afraid to meet Rachel. And at first Rachel's like, I don't know, I'm feeling like a little bit suspicious about this. I'm feeling a little uncomfortable about it. And then eventually she starts to realize, as she sort of talks to different people in this town, that maybe there's some validity to what Hannah is talking about. Overall, like I said, the strongest parts to me were the podcast parts, because I said earlier, like the podcast was really immersive for me. And when I was listening to it, I was really in it. You kind of forget that you're not listening to a podcast when those moments happen. But I will say that some of the letters and like backstory with Hannah was a little bit weak for me, and I didn't enjoy those parts as much as I enjoyed like the courtroom proceedings and the podcast aspect of it. So that's why I would be hesitant to read anything else by Megan Goldin, because I'm not sure that the rest of the story was strong enough to like carry a whole book. All of the components together made this book a really enjoyable 4 stars for me, but I think had like the podcast element not existed, I don't know that this would have been a 4 stars for me, just because of sort of how things panned out, I guess. I was a little irritated with certain aspects of this book in terms of reveals, but overall I enjoyed it. And I still stand by the fact that I think this very much reminds me of Broadchurch, and that if you liked the 2nd season of Broadchurch, you'll likely enjoy this book. But again, it's a sexual assault case. There's lots of discussions and depictions of sexual assault on page, so please be mindful of that. I knew that going in. It was still very triggering. I read this book over the course of like 7 days because I did put it down a lot. But overall, I really, really liked it, and I'm glad that I finally got around to it. I've had this book on my TBR for a very long time, and I believe that Ray, who I was buddy reading this with from Bookmark Chronicles, also really enjoyed this one. So I'm so glad that she messaged me to tell me that it came in and that it was instantly available for me. And it happened to be 12 letters long. So this fulfilled the prompt for the random number generator, and the title had to have the same exact number of letters. This means we are picking from our new prompt, and the next prompt on my list is a light source on the cover. I had a very different idea for this prompt when I saw it, but I'm not gonna lie to you, a skip the line loan came in literally 5 minutes ago, or however long it's been since I started this update, and I knew that I had to change what I was gonna do. My skip the line loan was for Just for the Summer, and I'm so excited. I'm so excited. I love Abby Jimenez. Abby Jimenez was one of the first romance authors I gave a 5 stars to. I just really, really loved Part of Your World. I can't even express to you like what it was about it. I think it was the combination of the fact that it was actually very funny, but it also had a combination of a lot of heavy topics and trauma that characters needed to get over, and it was kind of like the perfect combination of funny and heavy. Plus, it was a small town, which you know that I love. I really loved both of the characters in that book, and just something about it gave me the 5-star feeling. I gave it 5 stars, absolutely loved it. I will say yours truly was not a full 5 stars for me, and I know that Erin said this one is a little heavier than the other 2 books, so I'm prepared for that. And I'm really excited. I really am. So from what I know about Just for the Summer, the 2 main characters have a curse where every time they date someone, they break up with that person and their ex finds the love of their life immediately after their breakup. And I believe that the 2 main characters both have this curse, end up finding each other, and as you would assume, fall in love. Okay, so I'm really excited. I'm gonna start this one, and I will update you as soon as I'm like a quarter of the way in.
Hi, I'm 50% into Just for the Summer, and I've just been, reading it as I'm doing my chores and going about my day. Why am I crying so much? Why did Abby Jimenez decide to attack me like this and my own relationship with my mother? Like, why did she decide to do that? But also, why is this giving 5 stars, okay? Now, I was very worried because yours truly did not give me that. I'm sorry, Brianna, the main character, really, really bothered me in that book, but Jacob, everything, But the 2 main characters in here are just so sweet. They're so sweet, and they've had such traumatic lives, okay? And we're like in the midst of a traumatic situation for both of them, and they're just like there for each other. And maybe it is trauma bonding, but like what better relationships are there in the world except for trauma bonded ones? I don't know. I'm loving this. I'm running errands, so I'm not going to give you like the full synopsis right now, but I will definitely be finishing this today. I was hoping to actually sit by the pool today, but it is gloomy, so I decided to run errands instead. And I'm on my way to Target. I brought my headphones. I brought them because I was like, I have to listen to this while I'm shopping in Target. What's a more zen experience than crying in the Target aisles? I can't think of one, and I know you sure can't. So don't even let me know in the comments.
Target haul, because what's better than a Target haul? I'm gonna be so real right now. It's all Ollipops. Like, I got so many Ollipops. I'm literally not joking. This whole bag, watermelon lime, lemon lime. There's 8 of them, okay? There's 8. Cuties, because love them. Epic bagels, because I've been on a bagel kick. Sourdough bread, what I actually went there for, because we ran out of sandwich bread. Obviously had to get the red hot goldfish. I actually think that these are going away because there were only 2 left. Everything else was stocked, well stocked. And I have a feeling that these are limited edition, so they're probably going away, just like everything else that I like in this world. And then Aquaphor now has, this is kind of one of the reasons I wanted to go to Target. Well, also Target has the best selection of Ollipops. That's really what it comes down to. But I also really wanted to go because I saw that they now have the lip repair sticks with sunscreen. I've never seen these before. I love lip balms with sunscreen. I can't live without lip balm. I have a lip balm on my person at all times, and I very much love a sunscreen lip balm. Well, I say I love it. I like using them because I am a big proponent of sunscreen, but I can't say that I have found one that like I really, really love. I'm hoping this is the one. Usually they taste weird. They go on weird, give you a white hue. That's not cute. This is promising. It just has like a little bit of a lemon zest to it. It says it's fragrance free, although it does smell lemony. And then I got these like really cute like lilac press on nails. I got this one because it was like on the cheaper side of what they had. I really liked the color and I like the like almond shape a lot. I like almond or square shape, I guess. So I'm gonna try these out, but I am skeptical. I'm not gonna lie to you. I just fear that it's gonna look chunky. I don't know if that makes sense. Anyway, that's the Target haul. Abby Jimenez. I'm coming after you. Those are my tears. Well. Abby has done it again. I ultimately really love this one and I'm giving it a 4.5. I thought that it would be a 5 stars, but the things that bothered me just kind of bumped it down that half star. I'm glad I picked it up, and I picked it up, I feel, at the right time. And I will say that, I mean, Abby Jimenez to me is more like an Emily Henry. If you haven't really read Abby Jimenez before, I feel like she's definitely in that range of what Emily Henry does, in the sense that characters are going through their own life circumstances and just happen to find each other during those life circumstances and trying to figure things out. And usually the focus is on the characters healing and getting through certain oftentimes traumatic events and coming together and like falling in love despite it all. This one especially was about 2 characters dealing with very traumatic circumstances and despite it all still falling in love and still trying to find a silver lining in life. And I think that this book will bring up a lot of things if you did have a traumatic childhood. And I'm gonna say right now, I think that you need to look at the trigger warnings for this book, especially if you have a very tumultuous relationship with a parent. I think trigger warnings were very important here. I'm glad that I read them because unfortunately, I related a lot to Emma and her experiences. Now, Emma has a more traumatic story than I do, but like I related very heavily to a lot of things in the story. And I think maybe that's why I like Abby Jimenez in general, and maybe that's why she sticks out to me so much, is because I do relate to a lot of the things that her characters are going through in the 3 books that I've read. But yeah, I would say that this one has much less of a lighter tone than the other ones, but maybe specifically Part of Your World. I can see people feeling exhausted by this story. That being said, it just worked for me. It clicked for me, like maybe because I related so much to it and it felt so reminiscent of things that I've had to deal with and like traumas that I've had to get over myself. Maybe that's why it just like worked so well for me. And I really love Emma and Justin, our 2 main characters. So speaking of Emma and Justin, they are our 2 main characters who have what they say is this curse that every time they get into a relationship, after that relationship ends, whether it's a couple of dates or a semi-long-term relationship, that person goes on to find the love of their life. And so Justin writes a Reddit thread saying, "Am I the asshole?" And he just sort of writes about this curse, and he writes about how one of his best friends ended up falling in love and now is engaged to, I believe, his most recent ex. And the "am I the asshole" thing just came from the fact that he named his dog after his best friend, kind of in spite of his best friend. That was the whole joke of the thread. And Emma ends up reading it and decides to reach out to Justin and just be like, "I have the same curse." And they start talking and make this silly deal that they're gonna meet up and date. They're gonna go on 4 dates, and hopefully, because of this curse that they have, they will break the curse and end up finding the love of their life after they date. Well, obviously, as things go in romance books, they do end up falling for each other. And I will say that the romance itself is very strong. I really loved Justin and Emma together. I really loved their chemistry. And I especially love Justin. I think in so many ways, Justin reminds me a little bit of Jared, because Jared is definitely an acts of service kind of person. Justin is very much an act of service kind of person. But the thing in here that gets really difficult is that Emma has abandonment issues because her mother was in and out of her life her entire life. And I mean, it's pretty bad the way that her mother abandoned her. And so Emma ends up in the foster care system for a time until her best friend, Maddie's parents, end up taking in and fostering Emma until she gets older. But Emma explicitly says in the beginning that for whatever reason, despite everything that they did for her, just because of the way that she makes excuses for her mom, and she always just holds out hope that her mom will just be her mom and be able to take care of her and be there for her, she never grew attached to the people who raised her. And so she never had that like falling in love moment and considering them her parents. And you see Emma throughout this entire story making excuses for her mother. You see her mother in the story from time to time, and it's very traumatic and it's very hard to hear about. And it's very hard to hear about the things that Amber, her mother, did to her when she was younger. And then to see it kind of play out when Emma's an adult and Emma's still kind of falling back on those old habits of making excuses for Amber. Amber is one of the characters that I feel I had a bit of issue with in terms of how it overall was handled, which I can't fully get into because of spoilery reasons. But I will say that I think there's something to be said about the toxicity of saying someone is beyond help. And I know there's arguments of like, if people don't want help, then they're not going to take the help, and you can't help people who don't want help. That's not really what I'm talking about, and that's why this goes into spoilery territory. But I had a little bit of issue with her character as a whole and what we ultimately learned about her near the end. I just struggled a little bit with that in terms of mental health and what parents are responsible for and not responsible for. In terms of Justin, Justin's mom is basically on the verge of going to prison for 6 years, and we literally meet her a few weeks before she's about to serve her prison sentence, and he is going to be basically taking in all of his siblings to raise, who are various ages, the youngest being 4, and I think the oldest is 14 or 15. I may be a little off in the ages, but yeah, they're younger than him. He's like 28 or something like that. And he's about to be their sole guardian for the next 6 years. And that was also very just sad to read about, like the circumstances of it. He lost his dad not too long before this happened. And it was just very sad to read, and seeing the aftermath of him trying to figure out basically how to be a father took a lot out of me. There was a lot of emotions in this book, and I just felt so emotional the whole time reading it. I related to a lot of things. I really loved the romance in here. But like I said, there were a few choices with characters, namely Amber, but also a thing with Justin in the end that I was like, okay, weird, but fine, I'll accept it. Overall, I will say, having read the first 2, this is a very full circle read that I definitely think if you are interested at all in Abby Jimenez, read them in order. So it's Part of Your World, Yours Truly, and then Just for the Summer. Read them in order because the payoff was unexpected and it was very emotional, and I just didn't see it coming at all. Like I said, if I had to compare her to any romance author out there, I would say she's very much like Emily Henry. So the spice is far and few between. I can't say whether or not, if you liked the first 2 in the series, if you will like this. I've seen very mixed reviews, so I don't know. I really don't know if you'll like it or not, but just go into it knowing that this has a lot of heavy topics in it, and I mean it's for both characters. But I'm really glad that I read it, and I can't wait for whatever she comes out with next. And I don't know if it's going to be in this series. I'm assuming based on the way that things unfold in here, we're probably not going to see more from these characters, but maybe. Okay, so now we have to pick another book. And like I said before, I was going to write down a few books and sort of pick them with the spinner wheel. So I think I'm gonna do that now. The last prompt that I have is to read a book that would get me out of a slump. And I have 3 books that I just got in from Libby that I think could potentially be these books. Okay, I set up the picker wheel. It has 3 titles in it, but they're in there twice. That's why you see 6 options. And so I picked Queen of the Arrows. This will be the second one in the Queen of the Arrows trilogy. I have The Invocations and Wild Love. So these are the 3 that I think could get me out of a reading slump because I'm very much in the mood still for contemporary romance. But I keep thinking about how I really want to finish the Queen of the Arrows trilogy, and I'm still in the mood to read some YA thrillery stuff. So these are the 3 that we're gonna spin for, and let's see what we get. Okay, we got Queen of the Arrows, which is the second book. I don't remember what it's called now. I have the audiobook. Hold on, let's see what it's called. Okay, the second one in the series is called Arrow's Flight. I just got this from the library the other day, so this is what we'll be reading. I'm really excited. I can't wait to finish off this trilogy anyway, so I'll probably try to finish the trilogy by the end of the month, but I don't know if that's gonna be possible because the end of the month is fast approaching. April really got away from me. It's like we spent 2 months in March, 2 years in March, if you will, and then April happened and you blinked and you missed it. I think it's because the weather's getting better. Every time the weather gets better, the days seem to go by faster for me. Is that science? I don't know. I'm not a woman of STEM. Got my hair done. Have laundry in the background because I'm gonna clean the house today. So just ignore that. Rolled out of bed like 40 minutes ago. Did wash my face. Finished this book. The second one. Right there. You gonna be able to see it? Probably not. This was boring. So basically, if you don't know anything about this series, because I'm on the second one, so I'll tell you about the synopsis of the first one. Basically, we follow a young protagonist named Talia. She is 13 when we meet her, and she is living in a place called Holderfield. She is a Holderfolk, and in the Holderfolk society, basically once women turn 13, they are eligible to get married and start having children. They kind of have 2 choices placed in front of them, married and children, or to basically be the equivalent of a nun, I guess you could call it. I don't remember exactly the terminology that they use, but that is the type of life that you would lead. So we meet Talia when she's just turning 13. She is told that now is her time to get married. They have some prospects for her and she'll start having children. She absolutely does not want to do this, so she runs away. And as she runs away, she runs into a companion, and we learn very quickly that there are these people called heralds, and the heralds are chosen by these champions readithathons, which are animal companions. And these animal companions and these heralds are basically chosen people to protect the kingdom. And it turns out that Talia was chosen by Roland, who is the companion that she ends up finding, but she doesn't really know that. She doesn't really know how any of this works. So she decides that she just wants to do the responsible thing and return this companion back to the heralds. And when she goes, they kind of break the news to her that she is chosen, and that not only will she be a herald, she is the queen's own, which means that she has a bigger responsibility placed upon her to not only protect the queen, but also to protect the heirs of the queen. But before she can do all of that, she enters into an academy and she starts learning the ways of the herald, and she starts learning about her connection with Roland. And I believe we pass about 4 years of time within just the first book, which is a little bit wild in terms of pacing because the book is barely 300 pages. That being said, I gave the first one 3 stars. I really thought it was a strong start to a series. I think I even said in my first review, it definitely felt like an introductory book to a world. But then we got into the second book, and now we are, I would say we're like months, maybe a year after all of the events take place in this book. And so Talia is at the point where she is pretty much graduating, but she has to do an internship, and this internship just proves that everything she's learned and everything that she is responsible for in the coming years, she's ready for. So she goes on this internship with a guy named Chris, who's already graduated. He's already a herald. She's basically his apprentice at this point, and they go through kind of what a herald would do. So they go from town to town, village to village, helping people, answering questions, moderating different situations, and trying to solve problems, but they run into problems along the way. That being said, there wasn't really enough going on with the plot outside of Chris and Talia to make this a fully fleshed out book. And like I'm a character driven reader, so like plot isn't always a #1 factor for me. But I think the thing about this is Chris is someone that we don't really know in the first book. Like we get glimpses of Chris in the first book, but not enough for me to really even remember him for him to become this like main character of a second book. And Chris and Talia basically have to carry this book because they're basically the only 2 characters that we see the most of because of them traveling and going through different villages and whatever. And like we'll see glimpses of other characters, but really they're carrying the story. And because we don't really know Chris, I'm not attached to him. And while I really like Talia, I don't really like Talia and Chris's dynamic. The heralds in general are very interesting to me, and something I appreciate about them is that sex is a very casual thing, right? It's just a very casual aspect of who they are. For them, sex is so casual that there really isn't an attachment unless you are a life bond, and especially because of their line of work, they're not trying to fall in love with each other, and that leads to why sex is so casual in this world. And that's great, and I really like those conversations. I really like the fact that there can be casual sex in a way that's not toxic, and so I'm down with that. I just feel that this was done extremely awkwardly, and we focus so much on this relationship between Chris and Talia having a crush on this guy named Dirk, who we don't really get to see throughout the book, who we barely saw at the end of the book, who is best friends with Chris. And there's just some random stuff that happens in terms of like that dynamic, and much else wasn't really happening here, except that Talia was dealing with some internal stuff, especially doubts about her ability to be the queen's own, etc., etc. So it was interesting to like see her mentally going through a situation. I don't know, I was just very bored by this book. It was another 3 stars. I just want more from the world. When we find out she's going on an internship where she's going from village to village and town to town, I thought we would learn more and get a deeper understanding of maybe the magic system of the world here, and that doesn't really happen. Maybe we get a glimpse at the politics to some degree. At the same time, like it's nothing we hadn't seen in the first book. Yeah, I'm very disappointed by this book in so many ways just because I really want more from the world. And so going into the third one, I'm kind of tempering my expectations in that this is just the tone of this book, and it's not going to have much of the world building and magic system, which is fine with me. Like that is how Robin Hobb is, but I think that Robin Hobb is such a master at writing and characters that it can go unnoticed that you're not getting a lot of plot or a lot of world building or a great understanding on the magic system, whereas in here that's not so much the case. So yeah, I'm gonna read the third one. I'm gonna finish this out. I have another bind up. It's the next trilogy in this world, and I'm reading them in publication order, so I'm reading that next. but I feel like if I don't really enjoy that trilogy as well, then I may not go any further in this series because it's a pretty hefty series. So these are all the different series within the world. And from my understanding, unlike Robin Hobb, these series don't necessarily need to be read in order to understand other things. And I don't know, having read them in publication order, if this is going to give me a better understanding of this world or flesh things out better for me, but I just wanted to read them in publication order. So I will read that next trilogy as well, and that's sort of going to determine whether or not I'm going to keep going with this series. But yeah, I'm a little bit disappointed. I ended up just giving it a 3 stars, and I'm hoping that the next book is better. But the pacing is also breakneck in these. Like, we are covering so much in so little, like each book. This is in total like maybe 800 pages. Oh, not even. This is in total a little over 700 pages, and this is 3 books. I failed the magical readathon. We tried our best, and sometimes you try your best and you don't succeed, and that's okay. I'll read that book eventually. I will read it before the fall equinox starts. Anyway, thank you so much for watching this vlog. Let me know how you did in the magical readathon if you participated. Also, let me know how the month of April went for you, and I will talk to y'all next time. Bye, friends.